Okay, thanks. Well, hello there. My name's Gary Evans. I'm a member of the FUJITSU family based in Brisbane, here in Australia. I've spent the last couple of weeks down here working with our PostgreSQL support and services team based here in Sydney. And also our own FUJITSU Enterprise Postgres built on the community version. So I was asked to come along today and present something about my group's use of open source software and maybe my thoughts on combining that software with our own software and some of the benefits that we gain from taking that approach. So there's probably three main areas I might cover in this time frame, and that's going to be looking at our FUJITSU technology vision, which really explains the need for the need for a product that we're looking at building that utilises Postgres as a base. And then I'll highlight some of the areas we've had to look at differently by utilising an open source software strategy, and how we got the best out of what we consider the both worlds by combining our own software with that open source software. And then I'll probably run through a few of the enhancements and the services that we've put in to increase the appeal of the product to enterprises and generate revenue under an open source strategy as opposed to some of the commercial strategies that the teams I've worked with previously normally employ. So I think people in life like to feel like they're doing something worthwhile, something that's, oops, lost the slide there, something that they feels worthwhile in life. And I like to get the same feeling in my professional life, other than just getting a paycheck or generating profits for shareholders. So not saying either of those things aren't important, because they are. I've got my own mortgage repayments to make each month. But I still like to feel like I'm making a difference in the world somehow. And I think the goal of information technology sort of can be distilled down to improving the quality of our lives. Examples like not having to check in at the airport. We can do it on our mobile phones as we head off to the airport. And we can find an address we've never been to before quite easily using today's geospatial systems. There's literally thousands or hundreds of thousands of examples of how computer hardware and software improves our everyday lives. You know, there might be a few exceptions to that. I guess if you design guidance systems for missiles, you might have a slightly differing opinion on that, depending on your perspective. So I'm appreciative that I work for an organisation like FUJITSU. It fulfills that personal requirement. And FUJITSU's technology vision is clearly aimed at improving society through innovation. And so our goal is to facilitate human-centric innovation. And human-centric innovation is an approach to creating business and social value by empowering people with the power of technology and vision and information. It realises innovation by empowering people through connecting with information and the things around them. So from our perspective, we sort of group that into three core values: human empowerment, how we connect, or an organisation connects and empowers people, enhances their experience; creative intelligence, which is how an organisation creates knowledge from information and uses that knowledge to cross boundaries. That's sort of the group or the area that I work in. And then the connected infrastructure, how we connect and optimise business and social infrastructure with our technologies. So we passionately believe that open data and open source projects are fundamental in enabling that human innovation or that innovative society. And some of the examples of the open source projects that we support are OpenStack, Open Network Automation Platform, Cloud Foundry, Open Container Initiative, Open vSwitch, Cloud Native, and the area I've been involved with that we've sort of, as a company, been involved with is PostgreSQL over the last 16 years. And it's now become part of our core database strategy. So I say open data is a key to innovation. It's based on a concept similar to open source, but applied to the data that's collected. So it's an important resource for social and commercial activities. Everything from finding your local bus timetable to building a search engine to access data, much of which is held and created by government. And so the idea of opening up that data is that we can drive innovation and services that deliver social and commercial value. Opening up also enables community members more direct involvement in decisions about society in which they live. And basically the empowerment of society using open data is part of the vision of FUJITSU. So it's not only is open data critical in enabling the innovation an innovative society, but open source becomes key in providing that consistent and open interface to access it. As we see data becoming more open and volumes increase, the Internet of Things, more data being made available for consumption, we expect to see storage become more distributed over the next few years. It will be made available in the cloud and on-premise with little distinction between the two, being relevant to its customers. And therefore we see consumers needing to connect to multiple providers of data, irrespective of where they're located, in preference to moving data around for local consumption. Therefore, data consumers are going to want to use data however they want, be it online transactional processing or analytical usage. And that data could be of any form or format. It could be relational, NoSQL, geospatial, even of a graph nature. Shouldn't matter in terms of trying to extract value from that data. So that's the motivation behind us wanting to build what we call our open data platform. The platform should remove restrictions on location, usage, and type, and maximise the value of the data. So Fujitsu has been laying a foundation for such an open data platform with a number of the products that we have. One of those, or at the core, is Fujitsu Enterprise Postgres, which is based on open source Postgres with enterprise level enhancements underpinned by support and services. And as I say, that's at the centre of our database strategy. So with distributed management becoming so complex these days, we see advantages of using this relational technology to provide structure and a consistent interfaces to data, basically reducing the complexity of its consumption. In addition to Fujitsu Enterprise Postgres for on-premise use, we utilise it for database as a service in our cloud, for cloud, which is based on OpenStack. And then another product we use is SymphAware Analytics Server, which we've developed PostgreSQL interfaces or open interfaces, also based on FEP, or Fujitsu Enterprise Postgres. So our journey towards a scalable platform that brings together and integrates these large volumes of data and different types of data, we've found collaboration with other organisations in the community very important. Over time, our utilisation of open source with our own commercial software has seen us change towards adopting open source software business models, and that's caused us to have to review and take a fresh look at things like, well, where do we generate our revenue from? How do we resource projects to make sure we're giving back to the community and ensuring the long-term success of those open source projects that we develop relationships with? Relationships and communication, we've got to look at how we can best work with those communities and benefit all those involved. And also our approaches to marketing have also been significantly different since we've adopted this approach. So while we've been on this journey that's utilising open source software, we've also found that it's led us to taking on things that work well from each model, effectively giving us a final product that's the best of both worlds. Okay, so I guess the first example I'll bring up is our cloud solution. It's one of the building blocks of that open platform that I mentioned, a combination of proprietary and open source technologies, OpenStack being the main open source component. That sort of convergence of open and commercials provided us with the benefit and the speed and flexibility of using our in-house know-how and the hardware that we developed. And then on top of that, we get the benefits of quality, productivity, openness and connectivity provided by the open source community. So that best of both worlds provides that, or produces that greater value for us, the community and the customers. So also using an open source database, or basing our database on it, and having that as the centre of our database strategy is a significant move. So the reasons we chose this are, firstly, it's already a largely popular database. It's a successful project. It's a ready-made alternative to Oracle, which has many benefits to our customers, a large proportion of which consume Oracle licenses. It's very extensible, making it much easier for us to enhance and build enterprise features into it. And it's also got a backing from a large number of commercial entities and is used by a large percentage of technology companies as well. So combining PostgreSQL with our own software, again, gives us our customers the quality, productivity, community, connectivity that comes with our open source software, and then the enterprise experience that Fujitsu possesses with the enterprise enhancements we've made makes for quite an attractive product to our customers. So while Fujitsu benefits from open source Postgres, we like to give back. The community also benefits from Postgres. Fujitsu pays resources to work full-time on the community version projects. Because it's commercially backed, it helps bring confidence from enterprise users on that open source product. And then the long-term commitment from commercial organisations, including Fujitsu, increases the visibility and standing of the open source product. We also sponsor events like this event here, OpenStack, other events like PG Day in Asia, and next week we sponsor the event PG Day down in Melbourne. And we also provide infrastructure to host things like websites for events, resources to build and manage websites for events like these, and so forth. So there's benefits for all of those involved. So, as I mentioned, there's quite a few different OSS or open source software business models out there in use today, from community approved models right to those that you might not exactly call ethical. But currently we're using two different open source models. One's the optional proprietary extensions, and then the other is the selling of professional services as a second model. Proprietary extensions is often done by including externally linked libraries. That's usually to get around restrictions on the open source software licensing. We're very lucky in that PostgreSQL is a very, very open license supported by the community, and therefore we actually compile our enhancements into the source code and produce it as a one compiled licensed product. It's a fairly common model. We see with Red Hat obviously using the same model. And some of the enterprise features we've added to it as we go through, I'll just run through sort of what we've added in to make it much more appealing to enterprises, is in-memory column store indexing, increasing the performance of things like aggregation, averages, and other analytical queries in general. It's all performed in memory. We find this quite popular with the growth of sensor data and IoT, and managing aggregation of data efficiently becoming an important feature in the storage of data. Then encryption at rest. This is something a lot of our customers have been very interested in. It was mainly originally implemented to comply with payment card industry data security standards. And so therefore it's a requirement for a lot of enterprises to implement that. And then another security related feature is data masking or redaction to protect sensitive data. Our implementation has two modes. First is an online mode, where production environments is used to hide sensitive data like credit card numbers to unauthorized users through a policy scheme. And then the second is where we use it to generate realistic testing and development data based on production data. That's quite well used for. And then another one's high availability. There's a component called the mirroring controller that we've added into the product that extends on PostgreSQL's streaming replication and enables the master server in a hot standby configuration to be switched over automatically to the standby when it occurs. And of course, when switchover occurs, it's transparent to the clients without any form of reconfiguration. We've got an administration website that web-based interface that we provide. The purpose of this is really to simplify things than really add extra functionality. We've found that a lot of our customers aren't really DBAs or IT people, and so we find that providing a more simple and intuitive approach to performing backups and things reduces a lot of complexity, and we've found that that's been very well received by some of the community. As I mentioned, the second business model that we implemented was professional services. With our more traditional commercial offerings, we make most of our money from license fees. So by providing services and support, we sort of make up for that slack. So some of the commercial grade, we provide commercial grade support, and we provide a number of consulting services like capacity management, risk assessment, health check services for matured databases, backup and data recovery planning, high availability database design, migration services from other proprietary databases, which is becoming very popular at the moment, and then customized training courses that we deliver in a range of formats. One of the key services, as mentioned, and that is gaining momentum, is migration from other databases across to Postgres or Fujitsu Enterprise Postgres. We're really pretty much just running through that process. We go through an assessment phase, develop a strategy, followed by the actual migration, and then a verification phase. We also provide services to look at the application code, where we can evaluate the level of compatibility of applications and perform modernization of those at the same time. So I guess just summing up some of the things I wanted to talk about, there's our vision of empowering society through open data, that being the motivation for us building an open data platform. And then I looked at why open source Postgres and some of the changes, what it meant for us in terms of converging open source with commercial, and some of the benefits that we gained from that, and the two business models and how we now generate revenue from those adopted models. It was interesting. One thing I might just point out, and I'll put up on the slide there, is that not so long ago, after a presentation about this new vision and the planned open data platform, I did a bit of search on articles about open source and commercial software. And I guess pretty much as you'd expect, you got search results like, choose one, open source or commercial, which should you go for? So these are search results I got from a decade ago, for 10 years before that. And it really indicated two competing go-to-market strategies. So I then modified that search to look at articles just from the last year. And I still got a lot of those previous articles, but I got results like these that started to appear, and things like open source for commercial software, commercial open source. And it made me think, how interesting is it that that sort of hard-fought war between open source and commercial software that we used to see has gradually abated. And they're not really being a winner, well, at least not in the enterprise software market that we deal with. So instead, that's softened. We also see large organisations that were once very committed to commercial market strategies also experimenting with open source market strategies. And I think that's been a benefit to everybody that's been involved in that process. So I just sort of wanted to say, I think it'll be interesting to see how relationships and interactions between parties of commercial and open source develop over the next decade. And it's something I'm optimistic about, and very interested in seeing where it leads us in the future. So that's pretty much all I wanted to cover today. The Fujitsu booth is just over in that area there. And yeah, please come by and see us and have a chat. Cool.